Hello, welcome to Car Simps episode 4, and it's going to be a fun one today with my two storytellers. I'm Tyler Hoover, by the way, and to the far left is Rob Santori, is that your name, right? And
so.
Elliot Alvis. I don't know why I momentarily blanked for
Forgot
a
our
second
names
there.
already.
And these two.
Known them for over a decade, each of them. But yes, so they take turns every week telling me a story, and this one's a wild one because Rob, well, he decided to get this idea of having us sort of do a game show of guessing cars that serial killers drove. So Elliot and I are going to have to be psychological profilers and guess on multiple choice. So how many choices?
Four.
Okay. So we have a 50%
chance.
Okay, but between the two of us, we'll get it right.
Between the two of
Yes.
us, yeah, for sure.
So we have to put on our criminal minds, and figure what these people would have driven, which is going to be very interesting. I feel like I've learned a lot through osmosis, mostly through our shared cleaning lady, Tina.
Uh-huh.
What
Because
does she know about murderers?
Oh, boy.
all Tina does when she's cleaning houses, I come into a room and I hear, his head was on a spike and his balls were in the freezer and he was dead and she was put on. And it's like she's listening to the people being murdered as she's cleaning the house.
I don't get that. I get Eminem.
Yeah.
Or Snoop Dogg I don't get any podcast.
I think it's the vibes you're putting off.
Yeah, what
She comes to my house and listens to murder podcasts.
Well, I think
full volume, full blast on her, as loud as her phone speaker can go.
I think this
Does
is
a
a lot
great
about both of
job.
you.
well, more about him than me.
Yeah.
Like I'm getting, I'm getting some like killer gangster
Yeah,
rap, and
that's-
he's getting just killer.
How about that?
Well, it is the most popular podcast genre ever, which has got so many people into murders and figuring out murders and all that stuff and what happens to these people. So I thought it was an excellent idea for a crossover and very entertaining. It's interesting because there's a lot of comedy shows where they're laughing about these people getting murdered, and it's just like, okay. I mean, like serial killers doing terrible things. And anyway, I don't get it personally, but I think it will be fun. It will be interesting. And Elliot, I guess we'll be competitors, right?
Yes, we're going to have to be because he's telling the story. We got to guess.
Right. So
we're
what's
gonna
new with you?
Not a whole lot, just doing work, driving the Lyric right now.
I saw that.
Yeah, kind of just taking a test drive in the finer things in life. Mostly, my dad doesn't really drive it, so I kind of wanted to, warm the motors up a little bit, get it out. But it's been fun.
Yeah, we'll probably not have our Lyric for much longer, just
Really?
because it's been a year. We've done all the things with it.
Yeah.
I need to sell it to get the fresh juice into the YouTube channel.
course.
It's the new hot thing
But
or whatever.
it's a fantastic vehicle. I've been enjoying driving it around.
Right. Have you stolen any vehicles from little old ladies this week, Rob?
I took a week off.
Oh, nice.
I was really good. I did not, I almost bought a couple, but did not.
Oh, I thought I was going to ask if you took a week off from Marketplace. You were still on it.
Oh, every day.
Okay.
No, I'm always on Marketplace. I mean, what else are you going to do at 1 a.m?
Did we find out
Sleep.
why the truck was so cheap yet? Your F-150?
It's in the shop now. It does need a fan clutch because fan clutch is locked on. So when you're driving around,
it's loud.
it's just like, it sounds like a jet just going 10, and it doesn't. 70 miles an hour is a prayer. It just doesn't even get to 70.
So you stole that from a little old man
No, it was
for
it was
$1,800
a nice old lady for $1,800, but it also
Yeah.
needed AC recharged. And oddly, this one I didn't quite get, but the glove box was screwed shut, so I assume it was broke.
Or there were some secrets in there.
I usually when you see two screws that are well wedged in there, you think okay, broke. So I undid the screws and it's not broke. Perfectly fine.
Back
So
to my theory.
Maybe
Something
just a
was
little
in there.
extra
Murder.
No murder. I was hoping for this podcast. I was hoping, but
There was
no.
a bloody glove in there.
No, there was registration. There was the original book.
Wow.
Yes, the manual was in it, and nothing else. So it was. I mean, it's still great. It's getting fixed, but
Nothing else so far. I guess you'll see in your dreams.
potentially.
Okay.
Well, the only thing I'm driving this week that's different is the McLaren GT over there, which is a friend of mine, Tyler Patterson of Patterson Legal Group. So if you're from Kansas, then you see his face everywhere, all the
yes.
billboards, all the buses, everything. And he bought that as his first exotic car. And it arrived and it had error messages for parking sensors, the parking brake. And he was worried about the brakes and the noises they made and all that stuff. And he's never had an exotic car with ceramic brakes before, so he didn't put it all together. So I've been driving the car and it's all actually clearing itself out, but I'm going to take it up to the car wizards, and it's great. I can make a video without spending any money. If there's something wrong with it, then it's not my problem. So this is a nice, refreshing change, and I actually have no choice because I'm totally broke. So
that is a feature. You make a good point, though. If you've never driven a carbon ceramic car, especially when they're cold, like one of the most embarrassing things I've done is a nice neighborhood in Scottsdale with my friend and driving a GT3 RS cold, and the brakes are just wailing through this neighborhood. It sounds like you're driving a 97 Pontiac with 300,000 miles. You're just coming to every stop. It's just, and you're like, oh, I'm sorry, they'll get better.
Exactly.
It's just the way it is, but
and people don't know any different. Like they'll be like, something wrong with your brakes, and you got a $200,000 car, and you have to. There's no time at a stoplight to explain.
It's supposed to do this.
So I assume in these serial killer multiple choices, there's no McLaren GT, GT3 RS, Bugatti Veyron, and Ferrari 599 for our multiple choices. There's no like that kind of serial killer.
There's not, but there are some. There's some fun little tidbits in this.
Serial killing's fun.
It is fun for everybody.
I think if they had a fun car, they probably wouldn't be doing so much killing. You know, you'll see. Okay,
but I will say, I think what's going to be fun about tonight is that, and I hope everybody watching and listening can also play along. I mean, why not? See if you can beat the Simps. Basically, we're going to award 5 points for a correct answer. There's 6.
Speaking of
what?
Car Simps. The feedback on the name has been polarizing.
Mixed for sure.
Yes. Mixed is not even the word. If mixed meant bad, then mixed, but it hasn't been great.
There's some negative commentary on the name. There's been no suggestions for a better name. And there's some people that seem to like the name. So I'm not sure. One big milestone compared to our last video is we got monetized. So we're about a week behind, actually. So we made money finally.
How much did we make,
It
Tyler?
came in the afternoon.
Oh my gosh.
So not quite a full day's worth of revenue, but we're finally making money. $1.39 for our first day of revenue.
Oh, come on now.
So stoked I quit my job for this.
$1.39?
Oh,
yep.
This has been worth it.
Jesus, I better go back into my boss's office and grovel a little bit.
Anywho, you always got to start somewhere. And if you want to support the channel and support these storytellers, our Patreon 100% goes to these guys. All the work, all the research beforehand. And you can interact with them, ask questions and all that stuff. It'll be linked below. And I get all that sweet YouTube ad revenue to pay for this set and pay for Jake to edit and all that stuff. So I get that $1.39 for myself.
Enjoy it.
What?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, I guess I just told you this beforehand. Like I didn't tell you actually. So yeah, that's how we're doing this.
Well then.
All right, just speed through this then, Rob.
Yeah.
I mean, feel free to
there's
read.
going to be one serial killer we're going to go through tonight.
I suppose I could give you 50 cents each or a quarter.
Yeah, something.
Okay.
I mean, I can't walk home with nothing.
Okay. I was just setting up for negotiations, and obviously I'm not like Ed, so I did not meet you smack in the middle.
Shrewd negotiator.
So anyway, murder.
So tonight I am going to be presenting 6 serial killers for the Simps to review and decide what car they drove. They're going to be ones you've heard of, ones you haven't heard of. There's going to be some kind of off-the-wall stories, but I'm curious to see how you guys are going to do with your forensic abilities to come up with who or what they drove. And 5 points are going to be awarded for a correct answer. And at the end of the 6 rounds, we'll tally up the score, see where we're at, and then we will have a bonus round. And in the bonus round, there's going to be 2 quick stories. One of them is going to be true. One of them is completely made up by me. You will have to figure out what that is, and that is 10 bonus points that could actually win the game for one of you.
Okay.
And Jake's going to be keeping score. I
this amazing prize that I have in my hands that you cannot see yet, in a brown, ugly box that it did not come in. But one of you will take home this prize.
Okay. Well, that's exciting.
Yes. So there is prizes.
Did it cost more than $1.39?
Barely. But
So
it
we're back in the hole.
You're in the hole.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we owe about $38, but that's okay. Somebody's going to be very happy to take home this wonderful piece of hardware. So
Fantastic. I binged Criminal Minds for years for this moment. All my profiling.
It's CSI, but car scene investigation.
Yes.
Oh,
so if we were trying to find a serial killer, we'd be like, what kind of car would they drive?
Yeah, because a car does say a lot about a person.
Absolutely.
So I want you to get in the minds of these serial killers as I tell the story. And then I will ask you what car they drove, and you will both have to give me an answer from the choices I give you.
Okay.
Okay.
So here we go. Serial killer number 1, arguably the most famous serial killer in the United States, Ted Bundy.
I know that name.
Everybody knows that name. Ted Bundy was a horrible, horrible human being. But, what
What is
already?
that?
That's him.
That's Ted Bundy.
I thought he was a very handsome man from all the stories. Like he was
That's-
able to like lure
and-
women because of his charm and like he has a unibrow
Well, for the time.
He's handsome. I'd say that's a handsome man.
because he was played by like Zac Efron
Yeah,
and
I
like
was
other
gonna say that.
heartthrob. I was not expecting that picture.
Well, I mean, that's him. I mean, he was, but I mean, like maybe that back then that was a handsome man.
Remember, this is in the context. There were a lot of like hippies and long-haired, unkept-looking people. So a clean-cut guy like this probably was cleaning up.
All right.
So, young Ted Bundy, not that young there, but he was born in 1946. He did not ever have a father listed on his record. His grandfather was who took him in, who was known as a tyrannical bully. So this guy was kind of, I'm guessing, from what he saw, was probably the beginnings of when you, as a kid, seeing your grandfather doing some really nasty stuff. Like he beat his wife, he beat the dog, his cat, he tied the cat up by its tail and swung it around.
Jeez.
Swung it around. Just
That's all the classic, they talk about what signs of a serial killer. He had all of them.
absolutely.
Okay.
He's a racist, a bigot. This was the grandfather, so this is what he grew up in. So, right off the bat, this guy's not off to a great start. I mean, obviously it's going to be really rough to get out of that. So he kind of adopted some of those things. He was doing the same thing. He was torturing small animals. He was going around and doing all kinds of really gross things in the
People
neighborhood.
listen to podcasts where they just talk like this the whole time and they're just engrossed and entertained. I don't
Are you
get.
checked out already?
It's disturbing. Like
You're not
what's-
gonna win.
Okay. All right.
Excuse me. And pardon my voice, it's still a little bit off, but we're working on that.
Alf?
Off, not
Oh.
Alf. Jake, do you have an Alf?
it's an alien
I didn't leave you an
podcast
Alf,
now.
so we're good.
He has no idea what Alf
he had a
is.
thing
He's
with
under
cats
30.
too.
He did. Alf did have a thing.
See?
Oh my God. Okay, so also with cats, as we were talking about, he followed in his grandfather's footsteps, except instead of swinging them by the tail, he would actually tie them to the clothesline and light them on fire with lighter fluid.
Oh my goodness.
Not a good sign. He also set punji traps around the neighborhood.
What is that?
Punji trap.
I know what I think it is.
Yeah, what do you think it is?
I don't want to know. But
It's not what you think it is. It's what a common, like if you think of like a cartoon trap.
Is it the spikes in the ground?
Yes, that's a
When
punji
they
trap.
covered up by like loose leaves?
Yeah, so he was setting these in his neighborhood, and a couple girls got seriously injured off of this as a kid. Like literally just setting spike traps in the neighborhood. Like this is a really, really off to a bet. Yes.
that's the fun game to play in the neighborhood.
Yeah, that was-
is impale your neighbors.
Yeah, not great.
Wonderful.
So he was not an adjusted young man in society.
Okay.
He was also a loner, which is going to be a common theme
Yeah.
in all 6 of these.
Yes.
Most everybody is going to be. all 6 of these guys. They all. the
they
loner
lacked
thing.
they lacked somebody in their lives to tell
mean,
you,
how-
please stop doing that.
How does someone that like you just look at that face that's a serial killer? Like how was he able to do? Because he killed so many people. Like how? It's just. Yeah,
Well,
don't
thank you,
hold
Jake.
me,
Jake.
Jake.
Thank you,
Oh,
Jake.
my God.
It's not
All right.
helping, Jake.
Ah.
I still see that guy. If I look at that guy and no one told me he was a serial killer, I would just say old, middle-aged guy in the 70s. I wouldn't think of believe me, we're going to get to a couple that do.
It is. We are a little biased because we already know.
Yeah.
I will say that. But yes, he does. And I know it's knowing, but yeah, he does have that look where you're like, I don't like this. I don't like what he's doing.
Correct.
Yeah, but like in a creepy way.
Al
Jake
Bundy?
said it looks like he sold shoes.
He looks
No,
like, he looks
does
like he's
not.
selling shoes for the wrong reasons.
So-
you know what I mean?
I don't even know what the wrong reasons to sell shoes are.
Imagine.
I'll do that.
Okay.
All right then. So he terrorized lots of women in the early to mid 70s. His MO, as Tyler said, he used his good looks and charm, which apparently he disagrees with, but a lot of women didn't. What he did was he actually would like fake injuries and things like that to get women to be like, can I help you? Can I do? And then he would kidnap them and torture them. Now, he always had a type. A lot of people rumored that said that he had a girlfriend in California that left him, dark-haired, parted in the middle, and a lot of his victims had that same type. And the reason why they thought he was going after that type was not so much that was what he liked, but that he wanted to kill his girlfriend, his ex, over and over and over again. So like murdering one wasn't enough. I'm going to get her again and again and again. So, I mean, we're talking sadistic stuff. This guy was brutal. So he gets arrested on August 16th, 1975, while he's driving around slowly in his car.
Here we go.
He got detained, but he got released because they had insufficient evidence to hold him, but the police didn't do a good enough job to check the car. He had hidden photographs that he had taken of his victims in the car.
I love policing back then.
Yeah, not
so
great.
much.
Oh, so the car,
Yeah.
possibly not fast,
Slowly. Yeah.
and also has some storage to hide things.
Correct. Now, was this actually his car or was the car stolen?
This was actually his car.
Okay.
Well, no, it was stolen.
Okay,
The car
so that
was
does-
stolen. Yes.
sometimes
This was a
might
stolen
not-
car that he had. So that is a good call. That is,
Okay.
it was stolen.
But he was driving. Not fast and storage are good hints here.
Okay.
So-
I don't know why I'm helping Elliot. I guess
Yeah,
I'm helping
No,
the
we're kind of
audience
both
too.
solving this
Okay.
together, but
All
we
right.
are, it's a healthy.
So he gets, I mean, had they seen those pictures, it's over. He's been locked up forever. So he sold the car a few months later to an unsuspecting teenager who got it. And the police immediately grabbed the car and went over everything. Found hairs, fibers. They didn't really have like a lot of ways to trace that kind of stuff back
Wasn't
then.
this like 20 women, 30 women? Oh,
20, it was in the 20s.
yeah, it was crazy.
I mean, I think it was over 30, but he confessed in the 20s. So it was quite a bit. I mean, but they said that he confessed to up to, I think, 25 and 30. But now that I think about it, the rumor was that it was over 100 that they
That's
never
insane.
found. So it was quite a bit. Now they can only, I mean, I think the real number is probably going to be in the 30s, but there were a lot of people that were missing during that time where he was. That also was like, okay, maybe this is also connected in some way. So eventually they finally got enough evidence against this guy forensically to put him away. And he actually escaped prison by intentionally losing 25 pounds. And he had, on the ceiling, there was a little bit of a hole that he could see, and he was chipping away at it at night. And he lost enough weight to slide up to the hole where a duct was and go through the ductwork, a lot of the movies, and drop down in a guard shack, change into a guard's clothes, got away, murdered a few more people into Florida. So he fled to Florida,
Jeez. That's a
where
good
he
spot
killed
if you-
again
yeah.
and again and again until finally getting recaptured. And that was the end of his spree.
Is that why you're so skinny, Elliot?
That's why I'm
So
working
you can,
on this.
You can escape?
Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause
And-
your body count's pretty high as far as, like, well, not like that way, but I mean,
going there. Yes.
it's the same. I mean, the same
It's not in the
thing.
hundreds.
Well, you only admit to 20, but really it's probably hundreds, right?
It's not in the hundreds.
Not murders, but just his,
Tyler, you're not helping us. There's
Hey,
eventually a woman is going to watch this podcast.
I wore longer shorts today for a
Oh, that's
reason.
right. Yeah, you wore
do wanna say
longer
this.
shorts for everybody's sake. So
I
we're not.
read the feedback, folks, and well,
A lot of leg there.
you know what?
I don't know.
Yeah, we pull it down.
Showing a lot
Pulling
of
him
leg
down
there.
here.
I mean,
Anyway,
we don't need to see any excess hanging, okay?
so he escaped. He was recaptured.
Recaptured, and then he died in the electric chair in 1989 at 42
what
years
a
old.
great way
He
for this guy
got
to go.
zapped.
Wonderful.
Nice.
So that was the end of his terror. And I mean, again, just a disgusting human being. I mean, they all are. There's no nice serial killer that I can think of, but just the way he did it, the way he would torture and just dismember some of his victims, and they were buried throughout.
Are you all enjoying this? I mean, so many people, like millions and millions of people do, but
We've
it's-
potentially picked up 15 women listeners
Potentially.
just on the
Okay.
title
Yeah,
alone.
I like how
So,
Tyler's
yes.
getting ready to just
Yeah.
blow this one up and be like, all right, here come the comments. No, I'm not.
and then
It really sucks.
these murderers get arrested, and then women write to them
Yes.
to like
Oh, yeah.
they're in love with these people, and like they're just obsessed with them that they killed people and they think it's hot. It's so weird.
It's weird, but it happens all the time.
So this is in the 60s when he's doing most of this
70s,
stuff.
early to mid-70s.
Okay, so we're in
So-
the 70s.
I'm going to give you 4 cars,
Okay.
and you both have to guess which one that he drove.
Okay.
Okay?
I'm ready.
All right, you ready? Here we go. Was it a Ford Falcon?
He looks like a Falcon guy.
So the Ford Falcon is like the basis of the Mustang.
It is started with an
but a
inline
very
six and-
cheap economy car. Because what was his occupation? Was he like a teacher? or
I don't know. They didn't really say what his occupation
it
was.
was like I kind of a not really
Run-of-the-mill
any
job.
kind of
Yeah, he didn't-
successful
yeah.
No.
guy.
No, he didn't
So
have money.
I assume it's not going to be expensive cars, right?
Correct.
Okay,
A Datsun 510,
I don't think so.
That's too unique.
Yeah.
a Chevy Bel Air
No, that would fit. That would
What
blend,
year?
blend in.
57.
That's too hot. That's what is he, Quagmire? This guy's like, I know he's handsome, but like,
He could be.
Okay. I think you need to work on your poker face a little bit because you went 57?
57?
So it's not
coolest
a 57 Bel Air. All right. What's the...
Or a Volkswagen Beetle.
It's got to be the Falcon or the Beetle, right?
I agree. I think it's the Falcon or the Beetle, and I'm going to go Falcon. Just
Okay. I think it's the Beetle. And also, like from that show with Efron, I think he's cruising around a Beetle. It makes sense because that's like a car that girls would be... Like if he's kind of prowling...
that's true.
Girls are gonna think, "Oh, cute! It's a Beetle. I'll hop into the Beetle with the cool guy." I think that's a great cheap car that also people liked and women felt comfortable with.
I agree, but the reason I'm going to defend Falcon is kind of a similar reason. A, blends in a little bit more. Nobody's going, oh, cute, a Beetle. A little bit more storage. You could feasibly hide pictures from a police stop. I mean, if you've been in a Beetle, it's like there's not, under the seat, maybe. And it's a pretty run-of-the-mill car, also not fast. And I think, with this whole cruising around slowly thing.
Yeah, but
Could have
I'd
been
have
a
a
hint.
Beetle any day of the week, but I'm not a serial killer over a Falcon. But
Right. I don't know. I mean, Falcon, also, the other thing is Falcons were so reasonably priced by the 70s.
right.
It would have been a very cheap used car, given, I guess he stole it, so price doesn't matter. But I'm going Falcon.
And if it's a Datsun 510,
If it's Datsun 510,
we just
we're just-
lost all
yeah,
points.
we're just off
But
the-
it's obviously not a 57 Chevy. Yeah,
57.
It's not a 57 Chevy based on that.
That would have been the best one to steal out of the four, though.
Anyway, Rob.
Yeah, I'm a great guy to play Hold'em poker with. Somebody has gotten 5 points.
Okay.
It is the
Beetle!
Volkswagen Beetle. There
Whoa,
it is,
and they
right
still
there.
have it.
They still have
Of
that. Is in
course
a
they
museum
do.
of serial killers' cars. Next to the corner of that red car is John Dillinger's car, I
Whoa.
believe, who wasn't really considered a serial killer because he was more of like a
Bank robber.
but he killed a lot of people.
So that's
Nice work, Tyler.
early mid 70s one because it has the more like the impact bumpers.
1968.
Yeah, not as desirable.
That's not a 68.
no,
68
this is
Beetle.
later than the 68. Really?
Well, they said it was a 68 Beetle.
Well,
No, well then the bumpers got upgraded because that can't be right.
Potentially, but it was a 68 Beetle.
Because they had okay, all right.
So,
interesting.
Yeah, I don't
Maybe.
know what was going on with the door
What's
there.
what is the fence like somewhere where he cornered a woman? Like, what is
probably.
that?
Oh boy.
No, I'm
Probably
just saying,
so,
like,
yeah.
what part is that of the display?
I mean, that
for
might-
for those listening, it's a picture of a Beetle with the open passenger door, and for some reason, like a chain link gate behind it, but just that. So it's a little confusing.
Okay, well, my forensic criminal mind here,
You're on it. 5 points.
5-0.
I'm in.
You're off to a good start.
Okay.
I'm proud. Okay, serial killer number 2. Joel Rifkin.
Never heard of
No,
him.
No, but-
no idea who that is.
Whoa. Okay, the picture is up. He has got quite the split mustache there. He's got the Jeffrey Dahmer glasses that everybody's
Yeah.
wearing in the late 70s and 80s, and he's got the hair as far as that
That is a
Flash Gordon hair that everybody did. Yeah.
How's Ted Bundy looking now?
pretty darn handsome.
I
Exactly.
suppose. Yeah.
These two guys approach you in the alley. Who are you trusting?
Neither.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, this guy screams bowler. We just lost all our bowlers, by the way.
Oh
But I
no,
mean,
he does though. He looks like he just came from League.
yeah.
Anyway.
God.
So what did he do?
So he was known as Joel the Ripper,
Stabbed? So like,
not to be confused with Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
He was a lesser Ripper.
okay.
But born January 20th, 1959, he terrorized the township of New Jersey from 1989 to 1993.
Okay, much more recent.
So that gives you a car window.
Ellie's excited because he can have a C4 Corvette.
It
no, there's
could
no
be.
way. These guys, they wouldn't be killing. He'd be too happy.
So a lot of the same things are going to apply to this guy as they did to Ted Bundy. He was not very good in school. Nobody liked him in class. Standoffish and weird, a loner. Same stuff applies. Did not throw cats around the neighborhood, thankfully.
Thank
but
goodness.
That
Yeah,
we
'cause
know of.
That sounds like my whole childhood, high school. Yeah.
We've had our
I was not
suspicions.
popular. I did not have friends. I was a loner.
Really?
Yeah.
I
yeah.
never would have guessed that until Jake put that older picture up of you, and then I absolutely would have guessed
Yeah,
that.
I was just known as Carly's brother. It's my sister's name. So she was the popular one, and I just sat in my room and played Legos and cars and video games
Didn't
and
have any like serial killer
watched
thoughts
Cinemax
or
late at
anything?
night. No, I mean, no.
Cinemax at night?
Yeah, late at night, you know.
God, I didn't even get Cinemax. I couldn't. My parents couldn't afford it.
They put like a blocker on my TV to block those channels, the nudie channels.
Oh, wow.
And I discovered what it was is just a tube that blocks the channel. So I took it off and then, screwed it back in, and I had.
It was a real thing? Like it's a
Yeah.
physical
See,
thing?
see, back in the day, this is why parents were afraid to give their kids TVs in their room. Now with phones, oh my goodness.
Right.
So this guy, he was in high school, and shortly before he started his crime spree in 1987, his father committed suicide.
That's not going to help things.
Which is not good for anybody. No. I mean, that's usually that. And then not even a month after that, he gets arrested in a sex sting by trying to have sex with an officer that was posing as a prostitute. So again, another sign that there were no girls that were really wanting this guy. He went to the streets.
God, like the one.
Those are like those episodes of Cops back in the day when they would do the stings.
Best.
And it's just like a guy's driving by and sees a scantily clad woman, and these female cops are like, they stop and it's like, well, how much you got? $1. Okay, hop in. And then they're arrested. Like it's not, obviously it's not something any of us would do, but it seems like a sting that's just, it's too, I don't know,
Obvious.
Entrapment, I
it
suppose.
does feel like entrapment because they're like, yeah, you got me. It seemed too reasonable. Like,
Right.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, for $1.
Yeah,
I was like, okay.
I'd be
why not?
screwed. You know me. I'll do anything for a good price.
Right.
It's not good.
Yeah.
You hear that, Courtney?
Yeah, no, she did not hear that.
Stay away from Broadway, Rob.
Anyway,
Yeah.
that's
So-
why it was just sad to watch those episodes of those prostitution stings on Cops, because I just feel like it's like low IQ guys coming home from work. They're all alone. Like, well, that's a pretty
See,
girl
and that's the
walking
difference
by.
between you and me is you were sad about that. When I was watching that, I was looking at that going, I could probably do that.
Which
And I'm
part?
sorry, but I was single a lot. The Cops was all, it was on since the 80s.
I don't know.
Right.
I always
on
thought it was a
long
good
time.
deterrent. I mean,
This
like
is in my single days. I mean, I didn't really feel bad for them. They're just out there trying to make a living,
which
making
part?
more
The
than me at the
criminal, the
time.
guys that were the Johns, because they were getting kind of literally screwed.
Well,
This is not the
Figuratively.
comment section. I'm not looking forward to this part, but it's
all
the
right.
world's oldest profession, and
is.
so he got arrested for the first time picking up a hoe.
Yes, he did pick up a hoe.
All right.
So, not long after that, 2 years after that, his first murder actually he committed in his own house, killing her and dismembering his victim, left her head in a paint can on
Wonderful.
the 7th hole of a golf course.
Sherwin-Williams.
On this, what?
7th hole of a golf course. Just picked a random local golf course, dropped a paint can with her head on it, and waited a couple days for somebody errantly to go and find it.
It took a couple of days
It
for
took
somebody
a
to
week.
find it. Jeez, not a
It took
popular
a
golf
week for
course.
somebody to actually find it on the 7th hole.
So, but there's the lid on it, I assume.
The lid and
they
everything
had-
was on it, yeah,
like,
and it
okay,
was-
somebody finally was curious enough to like, why is there a paint can here?
Yeah,
And then-
eventually they opened it. Maybe there's
Covered-
golf balls in this,
yeah,
but
with
no.
covered with flies, and they're like, what
No,
is
it
this?
was brutal. And for the next year, they were finding remains of this woman scattered about everywhere. But due to forensics and things like that, and the actual like way of identifying bodies, she wasn't even identified until 2013.
Wow. That's
Positively
not that long
identified.
ago.
So it was
So
pretty brutal.
he stretched this one murder out.
Yes.
Is what you're saying? Is
Yeah,
like,
I mean, it was kind of a long thing. And then
Okay.
after that, over the next 4 years, he was suspected of killing 16 more women, mostly all prostitutes.
and people
see?
will listen to a 2-hour podcast
back on this.
on this,
boy.
or watch a 10-part miniseries on Jeffrey Dahmer.
Okay, so
And I just don't get it. I don't understand.
I'm picking up on the theme between the two here because what's his name? Bundy killed people that looked like his girlfriend and broke his heart.
Mm-hmm.
This guy's killing prostitutes because he got kind of screwed over in his mind by a prostitute. So
Absolutely.
Well, it's the easiest way to get someone in your car.
that's
to kill
also
them.
true. You can lure them in with just a verbal agreement. So
Right.
yes, but still, it's interesting that that's what he kind of started targeting, seemingly after the fact.
So in 1993, he was implicated in that first murder, but at that point he was still on the loose. So they were looking for him a little bit. So he then a couple months later picks up another prostitute with her pimp. But the pimp leaves the prostitute and him to go drive off. And this pimp turned out to be punk rock musician Dave Rubenstein, who was, at the time, marginally famous. I mean, he wasn't massively famous, but he was a somewhat known name. So supposed to be gone. She says, I'm going to be back in 20 minutes. Is got a John real quick. We're going to, go do our thing and be done with it. Well, never comes back. So he calls then to report the vehicle stolen, as he noticed that this vehicle was kind of an odd vehicle, just kind of run down a little bit.
Interesting.
So 4 days later, they spotted this same vehicle zooming around town.
So that's a hint.
That's a hint.
Okay.
But this is in 1993.
Yes,
so
93, so
93.
Mazdas are still kind of new
yeah.
around here.
Right.
But
And this guy made the equivalent of what I would call a pimp insurance call, because he let that go away, and then he was like, I don't know, I guess I'll report this thing stolen.
A unique Mazda.
A Mazda
Unique Mazda.
from
So
93.
they try to pull him over. Doesn't stop. So they lead
Is
him on
he able to evade really well by weaving in traffic?
I can't imagine it would have, honestly, but maybe it could have. Potentially could have. Because I don't know that I've
Did it make
experienced.
buzzy sounds when you wrapped it up?
Don't they
Well,
all?
so because I was thinking Miata, but then he's saying
Ooh.
it couldn't elude the police, but then he said it could. So
Ooh. Elliot
I
with a
don't-
good idea.
You know what I mean? Do you hear what I'm saying?
I did hear what you're saying. Elliot had a little clue of his own that could potentially be right or wrong. So he does not pull over, leads him on a 20 to 25 minute police chase, ends up crashing into a light pole.
Okay,
and
that's a
then
hint.
the police take him into custody. They search the vehicle, and in the vehicle, they find the body of Rubenstein's hoe, or
Okay.
girlfriend at the time,
Lady of the Night.
lady of the night, wrapped up.
All right, I'm pretty
So-
locked in with my answer already.
They call Rubenstein to tell him that they found her. He commits suicide on the spot.
Whoa.
So now he's dead because his girlfriend / lady of the night is dead. So this man gets thrown in the slammer. He's found guilty of 9 counts of second-degree murder. So they had started to kind of peg him on some other murders.
Second degree.
Second degree.
That's interesting.
No counts of first degree. All second-degree murder.
Is the mitigating circumstance like he's crazy, or
I know there was an
it's like a
insanity
random
plea,
thing?
but I don't, and it must have stuck because there was an insanity plea, and it must have stuck. I
It
would
must
think.
have. It must have taken it to not face the death penalty or something
Correct.
like that. Was the deal? Probably second degree.
Jeez, but
never
even
getting
with
out.
that many, I feel like you're exempt at some point.
Yeah, you would
Like,
think.
it's like, yeah, that's fine for like 2.
Well,
But
and
like
then-
16, we gotta maybe.
Is he still alive?
Yes, he is still alive, but he was sentenced to 203 years in prison. So
Yeah, that's gonna happen.
not great. He's dying in prison. So now we come to the time of what car did he drive?
Okay.
The options are: was it a Mazda 323?
All right.
Was it a Mazda 626?
Mazda was so funny with their names back then.
They thought they were so cool.
Yeah.
Was it a Mazda B2000?
Ooh, the truck.
Or was it a Mazda RX-7?
What?
Okay, for me, right off the bat, it's a 323 or RX-7. His clue was that it was an interesting looking car, 323. Those were
Right.
kind of funny looking. They bubbly.
Yes.
They would have been pretty new back then. But the fact that he felt confident enough to run makes me kind of want to lean RX-7, especially if it's if it's like an 89 or a 90.
But how's an RX-7 going to end up in a light pole? Like
Still rear wheel drive, and he could have lost it. See, I'm actually kind of torn on this one.
Yeah.
The looks would have been that, but I mean, imagine if he was top down cruising, trying to pick up hose.
Yeah, but
and
that's
an
that's
RX-7.
sort of a tough car to hide a body in.
I
And
think
as
they
far-
had trunks back then.
I guess they did. They were sort of hatches, but I do feel like that's
But so is the 323. And the reason I don't think 626 is because if going on your clues, I just don't think anybody's breaking their necks looking at one.
right.
The B2000, again, not looking at one.
No,
that
pretty
would have just been
generic-looking trucks.
normal small truck. You should lock in your answer
Okay,
first.
I'm going to go with the 323.
That means I have to go with the RX-7. So,
Final answers?
Yes.
yeah.
You guys have gotten wrong.
Whoa.
It is a 1984 Mazda B2000
You
pickup.
said it was unique. It's because it has the camper shell and the
That's
stripes
exactly
on
why
it.
it's unique. Look at that.
Oh,
Is that
no.
nice? Look at the stripes
It's
on
got
the side.
stripes. And is this the actual car?
That's the actual
Okay,
car.
so
that's the
that's the
pole. he
pole
hit. There's the
damage.
pole.
Okay.
Yeah, there's the pole damage.
So he had the
Wow.
little camper on the back, so he could pick up the hose and do.
You can put a mattress back there.
Now
we
you
did
see
get,
why I
we
had
did
to
get
say
misled.
vehicle.
We did get misled here.
Hey, my
Yeah.
job is to make this difficult.
I thought we
Okay.
had that in the bag with the clues.
Yeah, it made sense because that would be something you'd lose it and hit a light pole, and yeah, that he could live out of it, be on the run for a while.
Now, was this his or stolen?
No, this was his.
Okay,
Not stolen.
I should have clarified that in the beginning.
Not stolen.
Okay.
Okay, well, still 5-0.
There we go, 5-0. And now we are on to serial killer number 3.
So unique could mean anything.
I
So
thought
unique could be
323 was it
stripes,
for
it could mean
sure.
camper.
Because I would have looked at one of those in '93. I would have been like, "Whoa, what is that weird looking?"
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Mazda made a truck.
Well, okay, everybody, Toyota, everybody had a truck this size back then.
Well,
So
that's true.
I'm still up. I'm still
You're
at
still up?
5.
Still
points.
5-0.
I got to get on the board here.
You do. And I think you will with this next one, maybe. So,
C4 Corvette.
yeah.
Locking in
no,
right now.
that is wrong. Okay, so Robert Lee Yates. It's a name that you might have heard. He was known as the grocery bag killer.
What?
Well,
Well, that's because he would take grocery bags and over the head, suffocate, kill.
That was his.
that's an
thing.
interesting murder
Yeah.
weapon.
Okay.
Well, I mean, of all the nicknames, he didn't get one of the better ones, but I
He
mean,
got a very literal nickname.
yes, very literal. So he was born in May 27th, 1952 in Oak Harbor, Washington.
And he looks like a very unassuming guy. Nothing,
that's good.
nothing
That's-
creepy about this one as far as the gaze, as far as the look.
No,
So-
pretty normal. I mean, I've
Yeah.
got a few photos that Jake could put up of him. All of them are pretty normal for this guy.
We're also getting a court photo. We got like the mug shot of the other guy. Just nobody looks good.
I
in that.
suppose.
So this guy, he was terrorizing the Washington area from 1975 to 1998.
That's a long run.
Wow.
Yeah, he's got some breaks in between. There's some stuff going on. But he grew up in a middle-class family, but unfortunately he had some really nasty ties. As we are learning with all these killers that their family, none of these people are
not the
coming
greatest?
from like really great families. So before he was even born, his grandmother murdered his grandfather with an axe. Straight to the dome.
You know what? That's serial killer ancestry right there.
She just had enough one day.
Had enough, and that was the end of it.
Killed him in a brutal way. That's nuts.
Well, I mean, in
Okay.
1945, I
it's
mean, the
probably
options
perfectly
were,
legal, I think, back then.
options were limited. Yeah, probably.
Like, I think you're allowed to. It's
Well, in Italy, yeah.
in Italy for sure.
So, anyways, so again, same exact. I mean, probably this is going to sound like a rehash, but same thing. Loner in high school, not a lot of friends. Out of high school, he started to work at a penitentiary
Oh gosh.
to familiarize himself with convicts on a daily basis. And then he started working with spreadsheets.
And then he
shortly
started
after
3D
that.
printing parts for cars. Okay.
Yeah. My
Jake's
question is,
getting
what
kind
did he
of
do to cats?
Off of the TV.
He did nothing to cats. I
Okay,
only
thank
wanted to have
goodness.
one cat because I know it hurts your heart
Well,
and my
we're
heart.
both cat guys.
We're
It's just
cat
like it was always like, yeah, and then you'll never believe what he did to cats, and it's like,
So this guy started working in the penitentiary with convicts, but he immediately gets into an argument with a coworker, and his answer, because he was upset, was to take a giant dump in the bathroom, spread it on his hands, and then spread the feces all over the door of his coworker. So starting again, this not exactly of sane mind.
that's what the inmates do, by the
Interesting.
way.
Yeah.
So I think he probably learned that move from them.
So he
Nothing
gets
wrong with that. I do that,
It's a
every
good
time someone-
protest
Yeah, I mean,
move.
it makes me mad. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay
Abel
then.
gets this sometimes.
Oh boy. All right then. I have no words for that. So
I've handled my own poop once.
It's-
Have
I
you?
know. Yeah, I've heard.
that's got to be less interesting than what I'm doing.
Well, it was during
Fair.
Car Trek.
a shoot of Car Trek, and there was one bathroom, and I needed to poop, and I went into the bathroom and pooped, clogged the toilet. I thought, oh, no big deal. I'll just leave it for someone who works there to figure it out. There was no plunger. I'm sorry, I'm telling you the story, but I come out, and the entire crew of Car Trek is waiting in line to go to the bathroom behind me to this one toilet. I knew, oh no, I just have to go in there, and I just went in, wadded up my hand with toilet paper, and grabbed my poop and broke it up and threw it back in. So,
What?
So
You just lost 5 points. You're at zero for
and
this.
then I
for that.
and I killed
Back to zero.
Then I killed 4 prostitutes.
Disgusting.
yeah, I was like, if we're going on the
What
things
the
that make Tyler maybe a serial killer,
Oh.
if feces handling is up there,
Now
yeah.
I wish I would have given Jay those photos because at the end
honestly,
I had
but
photos.
he did it out of consideration.
The toilet flushed, and everybody else could relieve themselves without staring at the bomb that I left in that bathroom.
That is completely thrown me off of whatever I was doing. But thank you.
Anyway,
Now I have your giant,
I'm trying to-
cowly turd floating
I'm trying
in
to
my head.
relate this to.
Yes,
I'm
well-
trying to get into the mind of the criminal here.
Yeah,
so I'm
All
putting
you did was
myself
make
in
me
it.
think you're a serial killer.
That's what I'm saying.
Literally with this. So anyway.
I still think he handled his poop out of
Excuse me.
consideration rather than spite, which is what this man did.
So the grocery bag killer, not to be confused with the turd killer,
with Tyler Hoover.
the turd cutter or turd burglar or whatever else you want to call it.
If he'd only had a poop knife, he wouldn't have had to do that.
Jesus.
Anyway.
Okay. So again, grandmother murdered the grandfather with an axe. Bad start. We got into the penitentiary. He's not, he's spreading feces on the door. We're going to skip over that real fast before we get another story. So then he enlists in the army, which, back then, I guess you could spread feces on a door and get in the army just fine. And now I have a feeling that there's a little more of a paper trail.
Possibly.
But it was very easy to get in the military back then. The bar was kind of low. So he enlisted in the army. But 2 years before he did that, he actually had killed his 2 first victims already.
Whoa.
But being in the army is a good way to get away from that.
Yeah, and this guy, there's going to be kind of a theme with how he kills, or does not kill, which is very interesting. He literally there's 2 college students that are just sitting on the lawn having a picnic and just walks up and just bang, bang.
Like broad daylight.
Oh, so this isn't with the plastic bag.
No, this is before the plastic bag.
Okay.
So the first 2 are the plastic bag. So it's just, this is his first foray into killing. And then from then on, we're going to see the plastic bag come in. So now after that, oddly enough, unlike the other 2, this guy doesn't kill again for 5 years. He's quiet, gets married, has a child, settles down. Well, then he moves to Alabama, and there's his wife right there.
That's enough. That's enough to set anybody off.
Yeah, moved to Alabama, stationed at Fort Rucker. So still in the army, never got caught for his murders. And so he then continues his career. So in 1988, he moves back to Washington and goes insane. Starts killing prostitutes everywhere. They're turning up dead all over the place in Washington from 1989 to 1992. And this is where the grocery bag comes in. He's just suffocating them right and left. Never gets caught, once again, because I think is the theme that we're getting here with prostitutes. And unfortunately, is that when police, it seems in a lot of these type of incidences, when it's a prostitute that goes missing, it doesn't seem to be at the top of the list on it's just kind of like, oh, well, it's a prostitute. They could have gone anywhere. They could have migrated to another state. They could have been, whatever. So it was never really important. So it was, they were targeting women that they figured would be an easy target, that they'd be able to get away with it for a while before somebody reported them missing because they were already streetwalkers anyways. So a lot of times they went missing for months before anybody would say a word.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
It's like homeless people, same kind of deal where they're like, well, who knows?
So quiets down again. So this is the guy who's doing it in spurts. Quiets down again for, 7 years until 1995, 1996, when his wife, he comes home, and his wife comes home and he's not really expecting her to be home. And he's cleaning blood out of his car and from the inside and the outside of this car. And so she's like, well, what happened? And he claims that he hit a dog. She believes him. Now, I'm no expert on dog hittings, but I don't know how you would get blood inside of a car.
She felt bad and you brought the dog in the car to try and save it.
Well,
and
maybe,
then it died or
and
whatever.
maybe she fell for that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a little bit odd that you find that,
I've used that line.
Unless of course it hit the dog and the dog went up and maybe landed, maybe the car had an area of which it could have, found its way in if you hit it right.
I suppose.
He didn't have his air vents on recirc.
Well,
that sort of thing.
It's not how I would have expected it to happen, but sure.
No, there's several things you could list out of why there's blood on the inside.
So after this, 3 more bodies were subsequently found in 1996. So he's back at it in 1996, full on, doing his thing with the bags, all of that. 1997, more bodies turn up, but now we've got a vague description of the car. So with the description that was given, unfortunately, the cops pull the car over, but then they mistakenly list the car as a Camaro, which hinders the entire investigation because the car is not a Camaro.
Okay.
But the cops thought it was.
Is it something Camaro adjacent?
I can't say what it is, but the cops got it wrong.
We're thinking the
for
same.
better or for worse.
We're thinking
the cops got it wrong.
So it's not a 57 Chevy.
It's not a 57 Bel Air. No, it's not.
Okay.
So
is
finally,
it a car brand that doesn't exist anymore?
I'm not answering that question. So finally, he's arrested in 1998, sentenced to death in 2002, but it got ruled unconstitutional, and he's still serving his 403-year life sentence.
Bummer.
For his 11 total murders today.
Which part got deemed unconstitutional? I don't want to get into it. I'm just saying it's...
Well, it's hard to convict somebody on a capital murder and to get them to the death chair.
I guess.
A lot of times they end up just serving their life sentences out.
It should be like a national vote on these serial killers to how to kill them. Because it's not going to be someone who's wrongfully convicted.
No.
And it has to be like an overwhelming majority has to vote to put these people feet first into a wood chipper, rather than just paying $100,000 a year to incarcerate them for the rest of their lives.
Strong opinion, but I like it.
All right, Elliot, you need to get back in this here. Okay,
I'm gonna try. I mean, I've already got a pre-locked in answer, but
4 cars.
Okay.
Was it the Chevy Corvette?
Possibly.
Was it a Ford Mustang?
Yeah, 90. Yeah, good.
Was it a Dodge Daytona Turbo Z?
Really?
Very specific.
Okay.
Or was it indeed a Chevy Camaro?
So trick question. Is it a Camaro, but wasn't a Camaro? So that was the mistake.
I figured you'd throw Firebird in there. So that's where I was thinking. I was like, it's a Trans Am. They just, get easily mistakable. I've been thinking Mustang just due to the time period this whole time. And I can totally see like somebody reporting it on the street. And they're like, I don't know, muscle car, Camaro. And they just kind of blurt that out.
Yeah.
So, because think about it, the people who report a lot of these things, they don't know. They go sedan. They just kind of say.
But you're not going to pick Corvette just to say Corvette?
I'm not going to pick Corvette because
Corvette.
I still think that this guy would have been
I agree with you.
too cool. And you're not picking up hookers in a Corvette generally. It's too much like stuff.
And
in
he
the
has
middle.
kids and stuff, so usually they don't. You can't have a car with a back seat at least.
Right. I'm thinking Mustang.
You're thinking Mustang.
Yeah.
It's not Corvette, and it's not Camaro by accident. So, I would say Mustang as well, but we're not allowed to pick the same
You
thing.
can pick the same.
we didn't
Absolutely.
go over that as a rule.
You can.
So.
I mean, at this point,
Well, just to be different, I'm going to do the Dodge Turbo.
Daytona?
Dodge Daytona Turbo.
Yeah.
So we have Mustang, Dodge Daytona Turbo.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jake? Corvette!
What?
1977
Elliot.
Corvette.
You
You
gave
had
it to me.
one chance.
Oh.
One chance. It was the Corvette.
I thought there's no way you'd be too happy. What you're not killing
I had
people.
to hide my happiness.
Dang,
We're
yes.
terrible at this.
Is this his actual car again?
That's the actual car.
It is. Well, it's true. This is a bad period for Corvettes, but
So
you know,
this is the only serial killer with a cool car.
dang it.
Wow.
Huh.
Or
Well,
is
that's
it?
why he was at it for so long. You know what? Changing my opinion. He had the longevity to kill for like 20 years because he could always get behind the wheel of his Corvette and have
So
a
how does
nice day.
There's blood on the Corvette. There's blood. This was the Corvette that had blood on it, not
Yes.
like his other car.
Yes.
Like how do you? But it's a red interior.
Yeah, that's a lot of blood if you notice it on a red interior. That's a good point.
So that's a really don't you like your car? I assume your Corvette you want to keep it clean. What it has to be a fit of rage where there's a murder and just blood all over the interior of your car. Why would you do that to your car?
And on the outside, implying that he hit the person.
Right.
Also.
Well, because you're a serial killer. That's why you do it. You're crazy.
Well, right, but I mean,
they're crazy.
it blows your cover a little bit. I'm presuming, his wife knows this is his baby and, whatever else, which I guess makes sense of why he was cleaning it.
I guess, like military guy, a Corvette would be something they would get. Yeah. I mean,
It just doesn't have the utility to hide a body, because back then you couldn't even open up there's no hatch or anything to throw anything in. I don't know. This one caught me off guard. I'm still 5-0.
Yeah. I'm still up.
Yeah,
Okay.
still 5-0. It's not.
Okay.
it's harder than it seems.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Okay,
And
so
that's
now
what-
we
that's what
are on
she said.
number 4.
Okay.
This is David Berkowitz, also known as the Son of Sam.
Okay, that's a household name.
That's a household name, the Son of Sam.
No idea what he did.
There he is.
That picture
Not,
looks familiar. That
he
was
had- he had cool
terrifying.
hair.
Yeah.
What's the guy's name? Andy? He looks like a Warhol.
Andy Kaufman, you
Andy
mean?
Kaufman.
The
Yeah.
comedian?
Yep.
He does have a little Andy Kaufman look to him, but that is not Andy Kaufman. So this guy was actually born Richard David Falco on June 1st, 1953.
What an odd name change. That sounds like an awesome name to start out with.
Well, and there's a reason for that.
Okay.
He was given away at birth 2 days after he was born.
Okay.
So, yeah, off to a great start there again. He was adopted in the Bronx shortly after that, taking the Berkowitz name, because obviously a family with their
Makes sense.
last name Berkowitz took the name. So
Yep.
he was adopted into the Jewish faith, and during that time in the 50s, it was not. They were getting bullied. And
Not a
ridiculed.
hot time for them.
No, and he was ridiculed and bullied for being Jewish and part of the Jewish faith.
It's really not been a good time to be a Jewish person throughout history.
Practically
And,
ever.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's,
you're right.
it's
It's not been great. Not great
been
lately
great. There's
either.
no glory days, unfortunately.
You're
Yeah.
right.
No, it's not. And he again was it's that same thing. Just ridiculed at school, no friends. He turned his ire then to petty larceny and arson at a young age. instead of focusing on school. So there he is again.
Well, there's his glamour shot.
That is
yikes. That's kind of a weird.
Okay.
The lip situation is interesting.
He's doing the model kind of, what do you call it? The fish pucker or whatever?
Whatever.
Duck face. That is, yes, duck face. Okay.
Blue steel.
This guy is going to be kind of known as a one who had a lot more misses than hits when it comes to killing people.
So he's not efficient at it.
Not very efficient, no. So his adopted mom died when he was 14, and her replacement, the one that his adopted dad ended up with, he hated. Did not kill her, thankfully, but despised her, and that kind of grew his hatred for women. So he joins the Army in 1971 at Fort Knox.
With the gold?
Yeah.
Oh.
So pretty quiet Army career. He was honorably discharged, actually. So nothing happened. Didn't kill anybody.
Bad.
No, nothing bad like the last guy. And then he went to work as a taxi driver. So, which, I mean, that could make, I couldn't even imagine being one of those. As an Uber driver, I'd probably want to kill everybody. So I don't know. So
he learned a distaste for the public after that.
Absolutely. So his first known killing was in 1975, where he stabbed 2 women with a hunting knife. So
did the women look like his stepmother?
No, they did not say, but you kind of would guess that possibly.
Yeah, because that seems to be
So in 1976, he then decides to go and up it a little bit. He walks up to a car with 2 women inside, fires 3 shots into the car, and just walks away.
That's a bold one, yeah.
One of them survives. The other one was killed instantly. Now, the one that survived was only able to tell that he got out of a older yellow car.
Okay.
Now, keep in mind, this guy was a taxi driver.
Well, yeah, I was like, it could have been a cab.
So
a checker.
It was an old car. So they looked into that, and they found that it was not a taxi cab. So
his car that he drove off hours, he wanted to match his taxi for whatever
killing
reason?
times.
Okay.
Maybe.
Interesting.
So later that year, he strikes again. 2 people sitting in a car again were shot at, blasting out all the windows. The driver then peels away, not realizing what had happened, and then gets a block down the road and realizes he's shot in the head. So he's like, oh God. Both of the people survived in that, drives them both to the hospital. We're not able to give any description of the assailant. They had no clue at all what was going on. So a little ways down the road again, a few weeks later, there's 2 women that are just sitting on a porch talking, and this guy approaches in fatigues with an oddly high-pitched voice asking for directions. So as they start to give directions, he pulls out a gun and just shoots them point blank. They also both survive. So there's a pattern here of this guy shooting people and them living. So whatever he's doing, he's either a horrible shot.
It's like he needs to go to marksman school.
Yeah, point blank range, or just, I don't know what else it would be, because, ultimately if you're trying to kill people, you're not trying to leave anybody alive. So once again, they survived. One of them was paralyzed, unfortunately. And again, they started to find a couple more clues about this yellow car. So the police are now realizing that they probably have a serial killer on their hands. This is, all of the shell casings found at the scenes came from a .44 Bulldog, which back then was not a common gun, but
that'll get the job done.
Yeah, get the job done, but it wasn't.
When you hit your shots.
Yeah, if you hit, yeah.
And I'm not saying like you should definitely hit your shots if you need innocence.
Dirty Harry.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So you get, this, they're finding out that obviously the gun's linked. So now we know that it's the same person doing all these murders. But the only thing that people could say was a big old yellow car. So then, unfortunately for Berkowitz, he trips himself up because a woman's walking her dog down the street short time later, and she sees this guy kind of in a weird eyeballing her, standing by an old yellow car. Like he's just kind of, the old creep face that, a lot of women get. They see some guy, give him the old, how you doing? It's how I met my wife.
Why do you be that way?
I thought you met her on the internet at the...
I thought you met her at the Stang Bang.
All right.
Yeah.
I brought it up this week, guys.
Thank you. Badly timed joke. So she calls the police. Thank God she does. Because the police then are like, wait, did you say an old yellow car? So they go immediately, and they go and they follow the car to the house, wait till he parks. They go and search the car. And inside the car, they find a gun in the back seat, a duffel bag filled with ammo, and maps of all the crime spree areas where he committed his crimes.
Yikes.
So they got it. I mean, at this point...
It's pretty incriminating.
Yeah. I mean, Berkowitz literally just comes out. They say, hey, you're under arrest. And he literally looks at him and goes, well, you got me. So this guy's not trying to hide it. Nothing.
It doesn't seem too bright.
No, not the brightest.
Okay.
But yeah. So he is sentenced to life in prison. His next parole would actually be in 2026.
Still alive.
Yes, still alive. He's
Oh.
come up for parole a few times.
Fascinating.
And obviously I mean, he ain't going anywhere. There's nobody that's going to let him out. So yeah, in 2026, next year, he will be. So the funny thing about this is trying to figure out where the son of Sam came from. Like, none of this was Sam. There was no Sam. Like, why did he call himself the son of Sam? And what it turns out is he had two friends that their father was named Sam that kind of took him in. And there are unsubstantiated rumors that these two friends were involved in a lot of the things that he did. Nobody could ever prove it, but they assume that they had knowledge of what he was doing. And they also had links to some satanic cults as well. So the son of Sam became kind of a...
Gotcha. Was he known as this before he got caught?
No.
Or this is a
this was later.
Post-incarceration?
Yeah, this was later when all the, like, after trial and all of that.
Okay.
It came out. So that is the son of Sam.
Okay, old yellow car.
Here we go. Old yellow car. Was it a Lincoln Continental?
Too fancy for a cab driver, I would think. Yeah.
Probably.
Was it an Oldsmobile Toronado?
Still pretty fancy.
Mm-hmm.
But
Was it
imagine it in yellow.
a Ford Galaxy?
That's affordable at the time.
Or was it a Cadillac Eldorado?
And what
Guys.
what year is he caught?
He was caught in when was he
the
caught?
70s?
Yeah, 70s.
See, I think in the 70s, the Cadillac was still a status symbol. I think people would have said, I saw him in an old Cadillac. I think they
Right.
would have, even a passerby on the street would have known Cadillac if they saw one.
And the Tornado is very unique looking
Yes.
in that period, where I feel
It
like
is.
that would have been a more
Also
identifying
standout.
thing.
Yeah.
Very much a standout.
I'm thinking the Galaxy is within cab driver pay reach because it would
Right.
have just been a used car at that time, especially because cars lost their value. I'm imagining a 60s Galaxy, by the way.
Yes.
And then I think, like you said, a Lincoln is a little too highbrow, even
Yeah.
a used one.
Although yellow, old, crappy Lincoln in the 70s.
But I can imagine that kind of buttery yellow in all of those.
I suppose you're right.
Kind of came in that color. So that's actually a tough clue because I'm picturing that exact shade of yellow in each one of these cars. Like I said, I really think Galaxy, just based on the, maybe he's got some VA money coming in, but I don't know. The others just seem too fancy.
See, I'd pick the Galaxy as well.
Yeah.
So the next time you need to let me go first.
Okay.
So, but just to be different, because I agree with you the on the Cadillac being too, that's a yellow Cadillac, Eldorado. And the Tornado's too unique. So I'm going to go with the Lincoln.
Okay.
Just even though that wasn't my first impression was like, no. That
So we
could be
have-
like a used hoopty Lincoln.
Okay. So we have Lincoln and we
I'm going
have
Galaxy.
Yeah.
Jake. The reveal? Does
That's
anyone
a
even know what that is?
Ford Galaxy, right?
That is a Ford Galaxy.
Yeah, finally,
Yep.
I'm on the board.
1970 Ford Galaxy
Yeah, it's a-
in that
It's a,
barely...
it's a newer one than I was imagining. I was
Yes.
imagining the rocket taillights Galaxy, which would have been just
Yep.
a pretty cheap car. But wow,
I would have given that to you, but yeah, if you would have made it impossible, you should have been like Dodge Monaco
Yeah.
and
Oh
like
my God.
like that kind of stuff. It would have
any
been
of those
ridiculous.
weird cars that's not even a
Yeah.
household
Well, I
name
wanted you
anymore.
guys to get some right. And again,
Okay.
it doesn't hurt to guess the same thing.
Thank you. I'm
Now
sorry
you're
for going.
tied,
I'm
though,
sorry
so
for going
now-
first.
Okay.
You can go first next time.
I'll go first next
Yes,
time.
you get the first the
Oh,
next two
I
times.
feel like we need to pick different just so
We
we
do.
like
It is more
maximize our
fun.
odds of one of us looking smart.
true. It is more
right?
fun.
fair.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
5-5. It's a tie.
Yeah, after
Going down to the last two.
Okay.
So
that's-
number 5. This one, now you may not know the name, but you're going to know what they were known for. So this is Lee Boyd Malvo and John Allen Muhammad. And this one to me, not the biggest picture I could find, but hey.
This is classic. This is very us.
this
A
is
small
very-
picture.
So the dynamic duo here.
Yes. So these guys, and this is something that captivated me. These guys were known as the DC Beltway Snipers.
Okay.
So if you've never heard of those two, you probably heard of the DC Beltway Snipers.
Well, because this was
was
we were
the last one
alive
guy.
for this.
Yes, we were all
it
alive
was
for this.
15
2002.
years ago,
Oh,
20
it
years
is
ago.
more recent than I
Wow.
thought it
2002.
was. But I know the story. I watched, I think even a whole thing on it once, but I don't remember the car. I just remember the story. And here's how well I don't remember it. I thought it was one guy
Right. And
So-
it's not.
Well, but they shot
from
out of
the car.
Or,
Yeah, and that's why it made him so difficult to find. Is
Yes.
because they would have a gun. And I'm sure I don't want to spoil it for him.
No, you're fine.
But I just remember that being the thing is there'd be a gunshot in the middle of the day and somebody would
Right.
get sniped. And it was like, we don't know. There's nobody on any rooftops, no building. They couldn't find him. They basically bored a hole through the trunk of a car and would lay prone. in there and shoot from the car so that nobody would ever suspect.
You're stealing Rob's thunder
No,
here.
I'm
This
fine
is
with that. It's a
yep.
great way to tell that. He's
Yeah.
absolutely right.
But that's what I remember from the thing I watched on it. And again, not that well if I only thought it was one guy.
So did none of you actually remember this as it happened? Like being gripped, like watch. I would be.
Yes.
I saw it on the news, but I didn't know the gravity.
I remember the manhunt where they're
Yes.
like, we got to find these people. And it was national news, because it was right after 9/11.
Post 9/11.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, it was terrifying.
So-
like people were terrified because they've nobody had any
Who is,
idea
like,
what was
but
happening.
they thought it's terrorism. Who's doing this again? It was a whole thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So a little backstory on these two and how they ended up meeting. So Malvo, the younger boy, he was born February 18 in 1985 in Kingston, Jamaica. And in 2000, he meets 40-year-old John Allen Muhammad in an electronics store in Antigua. So, became friends. I can't imagine, the history, how that would form, but this kind of gives a little insight as to what may have happened. In 2001, after a short friendship, Malvo, who had no parental supervision, moves in with Muhammad. And Muhammad then helps Malvo move with his mom to Florida together so that him and his mom can move to Florida. They actually kind of snuck in to Florida and started living there. And Muhammad himself moves to Washington. So Malvo, shortly after, runs away from his mother to be reunited with Muhammad in Washington State.
Sounds like a love story.
It's interesting. I think what it is the fact that there was no father figure at all going on here. Like there was no father in the picture. So I assume that Malvo took Muhammad as like, this is going to be like my dad.
Sure.
So it was probably, you hope. But again, we're talking about what they did. God, it could be anything. So Malvo himself, he gets enrolled in Bellingham High School, and guess what he did? How do you think he did in high school?
Not well.
He tortured a cat.
No, we only had one cat.
Okay. Did he torture a dog?
No, but it was the same stuff. It's just
Loner,
not loner,
bullied.
made fun of, bullied. It's just like, how many of these can you watch before you sit there and, you start to, thankfully, for us, instilling our kids not to bully people and not to, but man, I mean, how important is that when you see that every single one of these guys it's the same thing, just bullied, incessantly just teased and ridiculed. It's like, it's tough. I mean, they're serial killers, but I feel for them when they're young because it's like, what kind of hell did they go through that turns you into this much of a psychopath? I mean, now some of them, granted, there are a couple of them that, obviously they were already, the next one we're going to talk about is going to be a little bit down that road of like, well, we kind of saw this coming. So Malvo then, his first kind of run-in with a gun was when he actually steals a Bushmaster XM15, I believe is what it was, from a gun store. And then a week later is shooting it at the target range that's built into the store.
Yeah.
So he's practicing
Back
with
at
the
the scene of
gun
the crime.
that he stole from the shop. So he's learning how to shoot an XM15. And then on February 16th, 2002, a young woman was shot point blank by Malvo at her aunt and uncle's house. Point blank, just bang. Malvo later tells his psychologist, this is much farther down the road, that it was just a test to see if he'd actually do it.
So everyone knew it was him. Like it wasn't even like a.
No, he shot her point blank. She was the only one there dead.
Just walked
Gotcha.
up random.
Yeah,
Okay.
dead, gone.
I thought it
never-
was like everybody knew, and it was like,
No,
well, it was an accident.
This was a killing that unfortunately wasn't really tied to him until
Okay.
much later.
Gotcha.
So, at first this seemed just like kind of a random act of violence, but as we get to learn later, it's not even close. So on March 19th of 2002, a 60-year-old man was killed by a single shot to the chest from long range as he was practicing chip shots at a golf course in Tucson.
Whoa.
So
it's not exactly
literally
close.
and Muhammad's sister actually lived close to that golf course, and he was visiting her at the time with Malvo. So once again, back then, now we know, but then, no one knew what was going on, but he was in that area. So we had the same problem. And then August 1st, a 51-year-old man was changing a tire in a parking lot in Hammond, Louisiana, of all places, and was shot in the neck. So as it turns out, what they find out is this guy goes up to his car and his tire's slashed. So he goes to fix the tire. Well, Malvo slashed the tire. So Malvo slashes his tire and then waits for the guy to go and fix it, only to shoot him in the neck.
Dang, that's
this
cold.
This guy, thankfully, survives
Wow.
because he plays dead. Malvo goes over him. He's playing dead on the ground. As Malvo's kind of looking around, Malvo takes his wallet and runs off. So he survived, calls police. Actually, I'm sorry, he does not call police. He goes to the hospital, gets treated, never calls the police. So it makes you wonder if maybe this guy had his own something going
Nefarious
on.
dealings.
Yeah, something going on where it's like, I'm not gonna, maybe he thought there was he might have been in trouble thinking it was something else. So
Yeah.
once again, Malvo gets off because it's just another random act of violence. So the September shootings and going into October, this is when the DC Beltway stuff starts happening. This is when it gets really bad. So first one was on September 5th of 2002. A 55-year-old pizzeria owner was shot 5 times closing up his store in Maryland. He survived, surprisingly, but unfortunately didn't really know where it came from. Just kind of like, it's dark, it's night, closing up a pizza shop. Next thing you know, he's on the ground bleeding. So again, where's this coming from? What's happening? So 4 more shootings by Malvo in the month of September, right after this, that include 3 deaths and 1 critically injured. So now it's ramping up pretty good. So,
and common theme, nobody knows where they're coming from.
right.
Yeah, because that's the scariest part.
Right. And what we learned, and what you wonderfully pointed out to earlier, is that they decided to take it to a new level with this car that they had actually drilled a whole little cutout in the trunk where Malvo, and they actually rigged it with ammo and all this stuff, where he had his own little base bunker where he could lay down, lie in there, and just all you could see was the barrel of the gun edging out and shoot completely undetected through the hole. So, like, this is some scary stuff. I mean, the fact that these guys got caught is, I mean, thank God, because they killed a lot of people. But October 2nd, 2002, he fired a single shot through the window of a Michael's craft store. Nobody got hurt, and they just chalked it up to a random shooting. Nothing, they didn't, at that point, nobody got hit, nobody got hurt, so it wasn't really a big deal. But then, unfortunately, that proved to be false, because 1 hour later, a 55-year-old program analyst at the NOAA was shot and killed in the parking lot of a supermarket not far away. So now police knew they kind of had a serial killer on the loose. 5 shootings, no witnesses saw anything. So, I mean, police were baffled. The city was terrified. Nobody knew what was happening, why it was happening. Gas stations were actually putting up tarps on their, to cover their customers. Customers were getting gas kneeled down on the ground, and just
wow.
It was people were terrified to do anything. Schools were saying that they were leaving kids inside, but parents were running and picking up their kids at school saying, I'm not bringing my kid back to school till we find who did this. So another shooting happens at a Michael's parking lot, wounding a 42-year-old woman. So he's still going. And then finally, 3 days later, another shooting of a 13-year-old boy as he arrived at middle school.
Jeez.
And that's the one that really, he survived, thank God. But that's where it got weird. So along with the shell casing, they left a tarot card with the death card that said the phrase, "Call me God," along with some other gibberish on it. So now you have a serial killer, a crazy lunatic.
Yeah.
And then between October 9th and 14th, 3 more people were shot dead in parking lots and local gas stations. So that same MO, it was the same thing. It was undetected, 1 shot, and gone, and there's no one could find the car.
Well, this is a lot of folks now. I mean, at this point.
What the police did was they went back and looked at some of their surveillance equipment that they had at the time, and they had noticed a blue car at some of these checkpoints. Like at all these places they checked, that a couple of them, like 3 or 4, they'd seen the same blue car that they had pictures of. And they're like, okay, well, now we have something to go on. So they weren't, the only reason why they didn't chase after it to really at the end of this was because a credible witness had told them that it was they saw a white van and shots coming out of a white van. So they were looking for a white van when these reports of a blue car were coming in, and they took them as credible, but not critical, because this was a credible witness that said, I saw this. Well, it turns out that witness lied about everything and got charged for it. So not great for that witness. It was not a good ending for that witness. So they were finally closing in on them. They had kind of some ideas, and then they got a license plate. So they were hunting for the license plate. And then at 3:15 a.m., they found their car sleeping at a rest stop, backed in. And they had everybody came in, arrested them on the spot. And that was the end of those 2 guys and their killing spree.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness.
Wow.
Because, I mean, they were ready. They were nowhere near done. So it was... I remember being gripped every day, waking up to being like, did they find him? Did they find him? Oh, another person's been shot. I mean, it would break in on the TV, breaking news, another person had been shot. These 2 guys were just tyrannical. No ever reason given, no anything. Just, this is what they did.
Wow.
So now on to what did they drive?
We know it's blue.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got that.
There we go. Was it A Ford Crown Victoria.
Spacious trunk.
Yeah, a lot of room to lay down in there.
Was it a Dodge Aries?
Seems like an oddball.
That doesn't seem like a car that would last very long as far as making it.
Just too many starts and stops.
Right.
There's no way.
Yeah.
Was it a Chevy Caprice?
Oh, that's basically
Right.
the Ford.
That's tough.
Or was it a Cadillac DeVille?
But they cut a hole in the door?
In the trunk.
In the trunk.
In the trunk.
But then
and they were
the
shooting
seat-
out the back of the
I
trunk.
believe the seats laid down. So like they were laying down prone through the trunk.
I already know in a Caprice and a Crown Victoria
can't put the
and in
seats
a Cadillac, the seats do not lay down.
Right. But in the Dodge,
The Dodge
Is it a-
Aries, I don't think.
did it have a ski pass through? Maybe. It's still not. See, maybe what I'm thinking here is they either completely customized it and just like, took out the back seat.
Yeah, it's possible, but they're shooting out of the trunk. And I feel like
Aries
the
is not
Dodge
a-
Aries is a K car.
Yeah, that's what I'm
And
saying.
it
It's
didn't
not a
have
hatchback. That's just a square.
But I guess it could have been some variant of it. So I'm going to go with the Aries because the other ones, they don't have easy access to the trunk unless somebody's riding around the trunk.
But I don't. I think that's a fair answer, and it was such an oddball specific thing for him to throw in there. Like a lot of me really wants to go with the Cadillac, though.
Really?
I know.
You saw the documentary, so maybe
No,
you
but
have an
I
inkling.
don't remember. Like I was gonna prepared to say Pontiac, but
Okay.
it wasn't that. I'm gonna go with the Cadillac.
So we have Cadillac
And the Aries.
and the Aries. Jake?
Caprice.
Caprice.
Dang.
A 1990
Okay.
Chevy Caprice.
we
And
see
so
what's-
that's the actual car.
Yeah.
You can see.
Let's see what's going on here with the seat. I see the bottom cushion.
Okay.
So now there's a couple other pictures where you're going to see the trunk a little closer. So there's the trunk closer, and you can see the notch cut out right there. There's the notch where they cut out.
So
And then-
he would just sit
He'd
in the
just be
trunk
in the
there.
Yeah, he would lay in the trunk
Wow.
Okay.
with that gun dropped right over that notch, firing at people. Which is why nobody could ever find them because I mean, who was looking for anybody? You know, any flash
Such
coming
a
out
common
of a
car.
trunk of a completely, nondescript car.
Well, and also they had to think they were doing a lot of these in broad daylight, so it was hard to see a flash, even if they were outside. But you certainly wouldn't be looking from the car.
No.
And again, I'm kind of glad I didn't guess.
Yeah, there's the notch
Caprice
close up. Look at that.
or Crown Victoria because they're so close.
I mean, that's
that is
close
wild.
up. That is wild to see. They just cut a little notch just enough to get the barrel out there, and
No wonder they missed so
that's
much.
a picture of the gas stations putting the tarps up.
Wow.
Man, that must have been a terrifying time.
Look at that. Yeah, especially for that person that owned that Dakota. Oof.
Well, now with cameras everywhere, there's no way anybody could get away with anything like that.
No, there's flock
basically-
cameras on every corner.
The only way people can do this now is just to go out in a blaze of glory once in some kind of mass casual situation, but nothing that would be drawn out for very long.
But this was
So,
very late. I mean, 2002. That's. I mean, we had. It wasn't good, but
they're
we had
potato cameras.
tech.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
compared
weren't
to the
seeing
70s,
much. I
though.
mean, thankfully they got one that was close enough to get,
Yeah.
to get them locked onto them, which was
Yeah,
good.
but I mean, compared to the other ones we were doing in the 70s, it was like no chance.
Oh, well, look how long it took. Yeah. I mean, too
Still,
many people
it
died
was-
before it.
Well,
That is crazy.
What a thing.
So now we are still
Still
5-5.
5-5.
We're still in a
Yes.
deadlock. Going to our last, and certainly not least, killer. This is one that hits home for all of us.
Oh,
This is Dennis Rader, also known as BTK.
So,
Yes.
for those that don't know, we're in Kansas, we're in Wichita. This is our famous serial killer, which people now associate with Wichita, Kansas, and Park City and all that stuff. Yeah, he was around for a long time, quit killing for a while, and decided to just start communicating with police again and got caught. But it's terrible.
it's a weird. It's a
yeah.
crazy story. I know you're going to get into it, but I do remember like when this story came back out because I don't remember it. Obviously, whenever he originally was doing the killings, I
You
was
weren't
there.
alive.
Right? None of us were. I don't think.
Well, Rob was.
Rob
I
was.
was
Barely,
up for the
but
last
all
two.
right.
Yeah.
It's not
But
age
the
to be
point
one.
is, I do remember very vividly being like, serial killer comes out of the woodwork, blah 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 blah, and there really was a genuine fear in town. It was like, oh, like I mean, I was a kid also, but it was like. It was a scary kind of time because it was like, why? Who is this? And then you learn about the stuff. And of course, it's not a great age to learn about all that stuff.
No.
And you're like, and this guy's here in town? It was, it was kind of a scary time.
Right.
No, it was a very scary time because this is a guy that, I mean, obviously when he came back out, I mean, it was everywhere. And, I came from Connecticut in 1992, so I didn't know anything about any of this. Then all of a sudden you're like, wait, we had a serial killer? And you go back and you look at what this guy did, and it's like, oh my God, and now he's running rampant again. Like, what's he doing? Like, what's happening? And as it turns out, quite the funny ending to this guy. He's gonna definitely go down as probably, unfortunately, the dumbest criminal that I've known, or serial killer that I've known.
The reason he got caught.
Yeah, the reason he got caught is pretty dumb. Don't spoil it. It's pretty
great. The
great.
weird part is, all the tourism from serial killers and all that stuff. So they want to come to his home. They want to go to all the spots that he was killed at and all this. So they eventually bulldoze the house, and it's just an empty lot because so many people get off on this stuff and like we'll drive around. That's where so and so's body was left. And it's very odd to me. And
also Park City is just kind of a run of the mill
of all the places.
Yeah.
It's not exactly you go there and go, oh wow, look at the manor that he was. It was
people still drive by.
Yeah.
I mean, even when there's a lot, I don't know if they built a house on it by now, but when there was a lot, people still would stand on the lot and be like, I'm standing where BTK was. And it's like, it's not proud of the reason why we're famous, but we're going to go into a little backstory on this wonderful man.
And I know this is his famous mugshot, but he just looked like a normal guy. This is a guy you'd see at the grocery store.
Yeah, I think there's a couple. I think I put a couple
just
of
a
normal-ish
goatee,
pictures of this
balding.
guy in here.
he was a normal guy.
Yeah, he wasn't. I know. We'll learn about that. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's
Like I said, this is every guy in his mid-40s
literally
in town.
like, yeah, I mean, he could be a football coach for the Chiefs.
He does kind of look like Andy Reid. You said it. You said it, not me.
And Andy Reid's bigger, but
A little bit.
Yeah.
So anyways, he was born March 9th, 1945 in Pittsburgh, Kansas.
Okay.
Early on, he was displaying very sadistic behaviors. Unfortunately, now we're back to torturing
we're
animals
back with
again.
cats?
No cats. But he was torturing, hanging, and killing small animals. He spied on women early on when he was while wearing women's clothing that he would steal from their houses.
No, that's a new one.
So he obviously had some real issues. He served in the Air Force from 1966 until 1970. We're going to kind of lightly go over this until we get to the more modern stuff where it really went crazy. He moved to Park City, Kansas after he got discharged from the Air Force. And then about 4 years later, he started his killing spree here. He murdered the entire family that he strangled, suffocated, or hung. 4 people.
Right,
Full family.
and that's what his nickname, or unless you get into it later.
Yes, so the nickname BTK stands for bind, torture, kill. And so that's what he did. He would bind them, torture them, and then just kill them. And then 5 more times in the 70s, he did the same thing by binding, torturing, and killing his victims, ultimately, obviously giving him the BTK Killer name. Now, he didn't kill again until 1985 and 1986. And at that time, he was working at an ADT as an installer.
Oh my gosh. So ADT is a security system for younger folks out there.
Yes.
That you have in your home, an alarm system for windows and door breakages and whatnot.
Correct.
So that's scary that the guy installing this stuff is the guy who knows exactly how it works.
Which was, obviously why he did it.
And where all the stuff is.
Yeah, and ironically enough, he was actually going to homes to install security systems for people that were scared of him at the time.
That is terrifying.
Because after he was killing, in 85, 86.
Oh, ADT sales wins.
Everyone, yeah.
He was creating his own business.
Absolutely creating his own business. It was, it was terrifying. And now his last killing was in 1991 where he strangled a 62-year-old woman with a pair of pantyhose. And then went dark. Fell off the face of the earth. As all things happen when, there's no leads, it's, cases go cold, the news stops covering it, everybody kind of assumed he died, moved away, or was just kind of, off the face of the earth. But unfortunately, serial killers, as we know, they are very, very fond of themselves.
Scared the phone right out of his pocket.
Yeah, right? You okay there, buddy? So
I was trying to Google what BTK's car was. No, not really.
Yeah, you need that extra 5 points. Hey, there is a bonus. So at the end, but he started to have that feeling of like, I need attention again. Like nobody's giving me attention. I want to be attention. So in 2000,
there were no major leads ever at any point.
Nothing
before this.
Nothing. He wasn't even on the radar. Wasn't questioned. Nothing. So in 2004, the local newspaper, the Wichita Eagle, received a letter in response to an article that they published about where's BTK now, where whatever. So that's his chance. Like, I could be relevant again. So he sends this letter where he complains about his lack of attention, which ironically he did that in 1978, 1979, where he actually wrote to the newspaper and said, how many people do I have to kill before I get my name in the news or some national attention? Like, What do I got to do? So this guy writes a letter and then starts sending crossword puzzles, doll style, that are in the manner of his crime scenes, and his autobiography. He sends like part of his autobiography, which he's writing a book about himself. And so after 10 letters, he sends a package to police asking to chat with them. So this is where it gets off the rails. And I mean, you just can't believe this, but this actually happened. Like, this legit happened.
He's an idiot.
An idiot. He asks the police if he could communicate with a floppy disk and not be traced to a computer.
Sure thing.
To which the police say, yeah, and that's the actual floppy disk that he uses. But the police are like, well, no, we can't track it. And his response is, well, be honest. So they said, no. He said, no, we can't. And so his answer to this, to the police, he goes, well, he instructed the police to place an ad in the Eagle with the code Rex. It will be okay if it could not be traced. So he's saying to the police, please put this in the Eagle somewhere. Rex, it will be okay if that cannot be traced. So the police are like, well, yeah, well, put it in there. So they follow along, place the ad, and unbelievably, he sends the floppy disk to the police.
Which is strange because the internet exists.
We had flash drives at this point.
Google exists.
Yeah.
Like it's easy to look all of this up, and it's a very boomer thing to do.
You could Google, will I get in trouble for this? Traced?
Yes.
I remember computer industry here. It was actually kind of still niche to get a floppy disk at this point. That's how late in the game this was.
So Elliot was a computer whiz kid and got hired at Ribbit Computers, did commercials for them in Kansas. He was famous in Wichita because of that and got many ladies back in the day because of his computer commercials.
Yes,
ladies love computers.
So he'd mug the camera and smile and all that stuff.
But the point is, even I knew it's like, floppy disk? What
are you doing? So yeah, he sends the disk to the police, and immediately they trace the disc to the Christ Lutheran Church, and it literally says by someone named Dennis. They can see the Dennis on there. So they look up, is there anybody named Dennis at the Christ Lutheran Church? Well, he's the president of the congregation. And it's like, oh God. And then they also knew from security footage that Rader had dropped that package off in a black SUV.
Okay. Well, that is most SUVs.
Yes.
So that didn't really narrow it down.
But that does narrow down a little bit to give you guys a clue.
The type of car.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So the best part of this all is that Rader, when he gets arrested, is genuinely shocked that he's been arrested. Like, he can't believe, he's like, how did you find me? And he literally, the cops are like, you
sent us a thing.
We can trace everything you're doing on that floppy disk. And he goes, well, why did you lie to me? And the cop literally deadpans and looks at him and goes, because we're trying to catch you. Like, this is a guy that was not caught for years. And he comes out of the woodwork.
And then he goes, not fair.
Yeah, this is not fair. You guys lied to me. Like, what did the police try? What in the world? Like, I'm sorry. Everybody watching, if this makes you think that Kansas is kind of like, a flyover state, when I lived in the East Coast, this is what we thought when I was growing up. Like, we made fun of it. Because and if I would have read this story or heard this story, I would have been like, you will never I'm not moving to that yokel town. No.
Well, and if somebody was writing this for like a movie or a crime show or something like that, the producers would be like, this is stupid. Like, you catch him because
he's gotten away with this 30 years?
It's too dumb of a plot line to even be, fiction.
So now I
do think it is worth mentioning, though, because you kind of skipped. I mean, think about it. This guy was like, remember, a Boy Scout leader, a security installer,
he was.
and a figure of the church. These are all things that are traditionally trustable positions. Really, the most serial killer thing about him is blending in as far as like being a man of the community.
Yeah, married with children.
And stuff like that. It was like, why would you ever suspect that guy?
Mm-hmm. I know. And you wouldn't.
Unless he writes his name down on a thing.
His own daughter had no clue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No clue. His wife, I think, filed for emergency divorce when it came out.
Oh, that didn't even know it was a thing.
That's the thing. You filed for an emergency divorce, which extenuating circumstances, i.e. murdering tons of people in 30 years.
Yeah.
So this guy, mess.
Wow.
And dumb. How dumb do you have to be?
Like Tyler said, it was a very boomer thing to do.
Yeah, it really was.
Asking the police, being like, you promise?
That brings us to a very, we still have the bonus looming, but someone needs a lead here. So, what did he drive? Was it a Jeep Cherokee? Mm-hmm. Was it an Oldsmobile Bravada?
Ooh, luxury.
Was it a Chevy Blazer?
Oh, that's very close.
God, he does look like a Blazer guy.
Or was it a Ford Explorer? Ooh.
Do we have any hints
I
on
mean,
what year? Do we have any hints on what year it was?
Yeah, I'm not going to give hints on the year. You guys have to get this.
And then
Come
the
on.
only clue we have is that they have like church footage of it.
Yeah, there is church footage of a black
Okay,
SUV.
that's the only hint we have though. Nothing.
Black Jeep Cherokee.
See, that sucks. That's what I was going to go with.
Yeah.
You still can.
I'm going to go with Black Jeep Cherokee. I know we wanted to go with different things. But
I think
very
it's so
strongly.
burned in your head. I feel like
pretty sure he has a Jeep Cherokee.
Mm-hmm.
Jake?
Yeah,
Black Jeep Cherokee. Look at that.
That's not the actual car,
That's
though.
not the actual one. No.
Okay.
No.
So I was wondering if it was a sport,
I
if
think
it
he
was
had
a
a two-door.
Pioneer, if it was a country.
No, his might have been a two-door.
I think I remember the news story seeing a two-door like in first, but that's the only. It's such a weird random memory.
I'm proud both of you got that right now.
It's a local story.
Now, does anybody know what the old car that he was rumored to have drove was? No bonus points for this. Just didn't know if anybody heard this in part of the story. But
What year is it?
he would have early 70s, I believe they made these.
What they were on the lookout for?
They don't make it anymore.
There in one police report, it was mentioned that it was a potential car.
No idea.
I'll give you a hint. It was I have to go back and think of what this is, but it was a car that was not quite a car. That was more of
An El Camino.
It's down that road.
A Ranchero.
Wow.
Or Ranchero.
Okay.
So
How about that?
we are at 10-10. We are at a deadlock going into the bonus round,
Mm-hmm.
which you both might get this right. So I don't know what I'm going to do for the tiebreaker. We're going to have to do something.
We'll just share it.
Yeah, you may have
We'll
to share it.
share
It's
custody.
possible.
Okay.
So, for the bonus round, I am going to tell you I have two stories that I'm going to tell. These are quick stories. And one of them is completely real. One of them I completely made up.
So we're not guessing a car?
No.
So you're just going to some fantasy serial killer story you made up for fun?
Well, one of them's real, one of them's not. You got to tell me which one's real, which one's not. That's it.
Okay.
Very simple.
Okay.
The cars will be in these. I'm actually going to tell you the car in these.
I like that the cars
All
are in
right.
stories.
Our first one, and Jake, these are denoted as bonus 1 and bonus 2. That is our first man. His name is Elliot Roger.
Come on.
Is that your high school glamour shot?
Come on.
Mine?
Yes.
I wish I didn't look that good in high school. I could have gotten girl with that.
Girl. Okay.
But I wasn't very high on
Did you
myself
pick
in
this
high
because of this
school.
guy's name?
No. I picked it because of his name and because of what it. Tyler, have fun with this. Okay, so he was born on July 24th, 1981 in London. Born to a privileged family, son of Peter Roger, producer for The Hunger Games.
Oh.
He was a loner. Unfortunately, he constantly complained that no women would date him. He uploaded a video to YouTube talking about his desires to punish women and the men who they were attracted to because they never had any interest in him. He then emailed a manifesto to friends and family complaining about his dating life and fears of becoming a lifelong virgin.
Looking like this? Really?
Looking like that. So on May 14th, he goes postal, killing 6 people, injuring 14 more with an assortment of guns, knives, and his black 3 Series BMW coupe.
Well, okay.
He drove around Isla Vista, ramming into random pedestrians until hitting a parked car, shooting himself in the head after firing at cops.
Wow.
After his death, his manifestos made him a cult hero with incels. Do we know what incels are?
Involuntary celibates.
Yes.
Yes. And that was like, he's now like he's like the incel
He's
hero.
the incel hero?
Yeah, literally the incel hero. This guy, incel hero.
Well, okay.
Unfortunately, the BMW was salvaged out to Copart, where it was then bought by an unsuspecting owner, only to sell a few weeks later after multiple electrical problems.
That's Jake's BMW, basically?
I couldn't.
Jake did have this exact
don't
kind
It
of
is a
BMW.
car similar to that, yes.
I don't remember Jake making a video about this, so I bought a mass shooter BMW from Copart.
So that is story number 1.
Okay.
Story number 2 is a man named Enrico Palazzo.
Suave.
Enrico Palazzo.
Oh, look at those eyes.
He was born. Can I get through this? He was born on February 4th, 1922 in Milan, Italy.
I was not consulted on this bonus round, by the way.
You don't need to be.
As far as storytelling, but it's going very much off the rails. But here we go.
He was a semi-famous opera singer in the 50s through 1967. He went on a murderous rampage in the mid-50s, killing 14 people throughout Italy in his 1949 Fiat 500B Topolino, all by drowning in the Venice canals. He was captured
And
by
he's taking them one at a time.
He was captured by crashing his Topolino into a bread factory after a short chase, but he was only convicted on one of the murders as the rest were all thrown out due to insufficient evidence. He then hung himself in the Piombi, which is an old former Italian prison built in the 1500s after he had a short escape. That is Enrico Palazzo. So, I ask you both. That's a little picture that he'll zoom in of the Fiat Topolino.
So which one do we think is real?
Which is real? You tell me the one that you think is real. Is it Elliot Rodger or is it Enrico Palazzo?
I think Enrico Palazzo. That's a lot of things that you knew about as far as the prison in the 1500s in Venice and all that stuff, because they are still functional. Some of these prisons, like the Casanova. There's when you do the tour of Venice, they'll say that's where Casanova was in prison, where he broke out and who he slept with and all that stuff. So I'm going with Enrico.
Elliot?
I'm going with Elliot, not just because it's my name.
So you're going with...
I'm going with him. That's the real
with
one.
Rob's high school glamour photo.
That happened.
Okay, so I will reveal the... Obviously, someone's won, because you have two different ones.
Yeah.
The real story is Elliot Rodger.
Really?
Enrico Palazzo
Incel King.
is... Go back to the Enrico Palazzo picture.
Could you go back? His eyes are nuts.
Does that look like anybody you know?
Who is
Now,
it?
the comments
Is it
are
your
going to know
dad?
this. So that is Leslie Nielsen.
Oh.
Leslie Nielsen in The Naked Gun, when he went onto the baseball field, remember when he actually, sacks the opera singer?
Right, the opera singer that was killed.
Yes, and he comes out as Enrico Palazzo, the famous opera singer.
Of course, that's why it sounded familiar.
That's why it sounded... And
Oh,
when I was
no.
doing this with Jake, I was like, do you think Tyler will know this? Because...
I've watched Naked Gun 50 times.
Right.
If it was
and
Ace Ventura, you couldn't pull it past him.
somehow we got it right past you, which I'm very proud of myself with my
Wow.
wonderful research on the Piombi and Enrico Palazzo and his deeds.
Wow.
So, Elliot, you
Goodness.
are the winner, and of that,
Yeah, let's see what this
you
is.
get this wonderful brown box gift.
What is this?
This is something very special just for you.
Okay.
Don't worry, it won't get us canceled, but it's still great.
Oh, it's a trophy of some sort. It says the Golden OJ.
You
What?
won the Golden OJ.
So it's OJ doing his
It's OJ,
Heisman
yes, it's
winning
OJ
move.
doing
doing
thing.
it, but it's got the Carson's
Carson's
logo.
logo is in it.
And-
It is the Golden OJ.
This is amazing.
Which
Wonderful.
I mean, how would you not reward a serial killer winner without
It's
somebody
very-
who allegedly?
Very apropos. I like it.
Do you like it?
Thank you, Rob.
Is it going to go on your shelf? Where's that going?
I don't know. Are we going to compete for this more?
I mean, it should be a traveling trophy.
I hope that we don't have to. It was a great work with the research,
Oh,
great
no.
work with the
Here it
stories.
comes. Here it comes.
Murders. I knew it was going to be interesting and it was going to be fun to guess the cars. It's tough. It's tough content to get through, and I mean, my guts in knots just like thinking about it, and like the last moment of these people's lives and all that stuff.
It's tough.
just
and that's why I didn't actually use people's names. I didn't want to obviously let's just talk about what happened. And
so
We did a great job. Lots of research.
for next week, we are going to talk about an assault. Well, just one. And then the long history will be Elliot's turn to tell the history of Top Gear, which ended rather dramatically, not with a murder, but with a punching of the face by Jeremy Clarkson. Obviously, this set is styled after it, and Top Gear was around for a very, very long time before Clarkson and then the gang and all that stuff. So it'll be very interesting because it's now, I mean, it's a chapter of our lives that was very formative for me,
Yeah, I was gonna use
and
the
now
good
is gone. I mean, the whole garage is sort of based on that, you know. But Rob, fun.
Good work, Rob.
It was as enjoyable as it could have been.
it was something.
You did great work with the material. So
Thank you. I appreciate
yes.
that. And
Yeah, a lot of
guys,
details.
I
It was
mean,
great.
comments, hit me with it, good or bad. This is something I wanted to do just because I do love a good crime show. I do love cars. This is something a little different. Obviously, we're going to be focusing mostly on cars here. But on something like this, I thought it'd be a fun little deviation just to kind of see, and maybe get an idea. I mean, a lot of these stories, they had a lot of the same lines, and these cars were, I mean, a Corvette. I mean, there's some,
Didn't see that one coming.
no.
So, thanks again. And you all, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe and, look everywhere else on Spotify and Apple Podcasts to follow us there. And also our Patreon. I am going to say this. If we get 10 new subscribers to our Patreon, then Elliot will wear pants on the next
I will.
podcast.
thank
I will cover these
so-
legs up.
Well,
There's a big motivator there, but also, we'll interact and you can ask questions and all that stuff. So, and also get early access to the podcast. So, there's a lot of
And we'll
benefits
answer
in there.
questions, I believe, right?
Yeah, answering
Too?
questions as well. And Elliot will put on pants
gonna put 'em on.
mercifully for the next. Yes. Thank you so much for watching.